Do Apple and these other brands just use genius marketing to get ethical sales? Or are they searing your juicy brain like cattle by branding you with their cult-like manipulation? Whichever the case is, for the first time in history, you'll have the opportunity to decide for yourself. Because using my 9 years, 7 figures in revenue, and 3 ClickFunnels Awards level of marketing experience, I've drawn the most cultish marketing tactics these brands use that I've dubbed the forced marriage strategy, Catholicization, and the audience status strategy, so that not only can you decide whether it's ethical or not, but also so that you can use them in your business too to explode your marketing like no other. Beginning first with the forced marriage strategy, where if you're able to do this, you'll essentially be able to create paralysis in your customers that mentally freezes them to be able to do nothing but to buy your product whilst weeping in joy that they have done so. So to understand this, let me tell you about this fascinating study done back in 2003 where they did brain scans on Apple users and Samsung users, where when Apple users were shown negative news about Apple, their brain showed a negative empathy response similar to grief. That was exactly what you would see in the way that one would respond to negative news to somebody in their own dang family. But what was obscene was that the Samsung users didn't have a strong response to positive or negative news about their brand, but the only significant response was when Apple received negative news, Samsung users' brains were going off like they just won the lottery. So what is going on here? Why do people react in this way? Well, to grasp it, think to what your tightest, most unbreakable bonds are, like family, or even deeper, your ethnic lineage, like what you're labeled as, your last name. It's the sole bond, or more precisely, identity that you can't remove. And think of the strongest movements these days. BLM, LGBTQ, these movements, whether you agree with their beliefs or not, have undeniably strong emotional action takers in them, people willing to die for their movement, or more precisely, people willing to buy for the movement. That's why when Apple slaps the forced marriage of the quote-unquote last name Apple user to their customers, it becomes like putting on your last name, the identity that comes with being whatever race or gender you are, with all the power that identity brings, leading to recent examples like Apple users willing to blow $3,500 on the Apple Vision Pro to stay true to that marriage to be part of the family identity. So to actionably apply this, if you guys, let's say you run a coaching business, it's not just as simple as forcing your customers into marriage by giving them a community name, but think about it. Back in the 1800s, if you told a random farmer walking down the street, hey, are you an Apple user? They'd be like, do I eat an apple sometimes? Yeah, I guess I'm an Apple user. But now in 2024, Apple user means something completely different through the meanings of creativity, rebel, intelligent, being slapped on to culminate to what it means to be an Apple user. And just in the same way, do that to your businesses, where with my clients in our consulting, I call them disruptors or A-listers. By attaching words like explosive, unconventional marketer, and leaders of their space, I develop what it means to be married to that identity and take the last name of a disruptor, and hence why for you guys, once you create such an identity and ascribe words to what it means to be whatever company identity last name you give your customers are, that's when you unlock how to use the forced marriage strategy to create a cult that was able to make me, Apple, and now hopefully you guys, bajillions of dollars as well. But this concept would only work if your business had a unique product that you could ascribe these words to your company identity last name. But that takes time to build such an amazing product, and Apple is in a space where no one can compete at their level. But what if there was a strategy that allowed you to dominate even the most ridiculously saturated niches with a relatively boring product, but by just using a secret black hat tactic that would allow your company to potentially print bajillions? Well, that's exactly what SoulCycle did, from being stuck in the $20 to $30 million range for 8 years prior until they began to use what I call Catholicization in their business. That merely in the past 2 years, skyrocketing 300% to $120 million valuation, which they were nowhere near able to do in their first 8 years, because literally all their product at their core is just a simple cycling class that at other gyms offer as an afterthought or on a weekday with maybe 2 or 3 out of the 50 spots being filled up, having no one in the fitness industry believe in it at that time. And then first, the founder of SoulCycle, Julie Rice, didn't either, until Julie saw that that was exactly the reason she should start such a company, since cycling was in such a saturated niche of gyms. But was an unsaturated aspect that gyms offered. But since she also realized that at that moment, the product of just cycling was horrendously boring, what she did next takes a page out of the book of how Catholic churches were able to bring in millions of worshipers. And once she found the 2 secret keys, she implemented them into spicing the cycling industry up, where at the launch of her first gym, the classic 50 cycling bikes were set up, but number 1, boring gym lights and blank walls at cycling classrooms in other gyms were replaced with candles and word cloud murals of addicted, obsessed, commitment, and thousands of other hardcore words were plastered on these walls, building similar keyword environment to churches. And then number 2, as the business scaled over the next few years, she implemented hiring systems that mirrored that of the K-pop industry to how Koreans also use Catholicization principle by creating these mini gods. Just like Catholics have multiple saints through hiring only the best K-pop idols through rigorous application processes, auditions, and training processes, where after Julie implementing such systems, like an annual nationwide America's Got Talent-like audition, where out of thousands of applicants, only 120 make it to the audition process. And of 25 of the 120 to be brought to SoulCycle's New York City headquarters, which for the next 8 weeks, the 25 slave away with mental and physical SoulCycle indoctrination to come out as K-pop, Catholic saint-level mini-gods that, most importantly of all, are taught to be the charismatic cult leaders when running their classes. And the reason why those 2 keys are so vital is because when you guys apply this to, let's say, your coaching business, your consulting, your online sales, think to when you work on your bed compared to working at a cafe. You are way more productive at the cafe because what's bringing productivity is the environment you're in. So think of it in the same way that you could create an environment that breathes such power as SoulCycle's dim-lit candle rooms and motivational walls do, where maybe if you're a spiritual life coach, you light your rooms also with candles and spiritual props, where during your weekly group coaching calls, your Zoom background bleeds into building a feeling in your clients to keep wanting to come back and stay in your program. And then the second key, where realize as a brand, you are currently just one god in your company, but realize the power with SoulCycle was that they were able to print multiple mini gods in their business, where customers were retained by not the boring cycling, but that it was their idol, Coach Jenny or Coach Max, that was running the class, because Jenny and Max went through a literal multi-month audition process to be selected to become these mini gods or idols. So for you guys externally, you being the face of your company is fine, bringing in clients through your cult of personality on your social media and marketing. But what if internally you were able to apply a similar process where you could train a CSM or customer success manager to be a cult of personality in your program, where then you would be able to focus on Catholicizing your leads externally in your business, but internally your LTV or lifetime value would be equally strong to keep the money rolling in continuously, making you potentially millions of dollars. But even though now you have high LTV, forcing your customers to marry this identity, and by creating Catholicized environments and mini gods or idols in your business, this is all just to retain your customers. But if you have no clue how to gain your customers first, you'll have no one to retain. Unless you understand the audience status strategy, which will allow your audience to buy your products not when you ask them to, but even when you literally just stay silent, where your customers will now compete against each other to buy your products. This is best illustrated by the cult of Stanley Cups. Listen to this. The Stanley water bottle brand has been around for more than 120 years, and they were doing fine with around $70 million in annual sales up until just 4 years ago, where within the last 4 years, they went from 70 million to 750 million. Well, these numbers were only explained when in 2017, a popular mommy blog highlighted Stanley products as great for moms, which sparked initial interest. Stanley caught wind of this. They partnered with some of these mommy bloggers and began marketing hard towards that audience, creating new colors, running video ads of people fighting to just find these cups before they sold out. There was even a campaign where a woman was in this horrific car fire. Thankfully, she survived, but so did her Stanley mug. This video went viral. The company not only replaced her mug, they gifted her a new car too. There was a huge ROI on that. All of this flawless execution of creating status of their products, where for you guys, understand this, and your marketing will not even require your hustle energy. Humans have a natural tendency to conform to social norms and expectations. When someone is perceived as cool or part of a trend, others may conform to those behaviors to fit in and gain social acceptance. Hence, when Stanley began targeting women, it wasn't just women they were targeting, but they were targeting audience, status, establishment, where suddenly owning a Stanley wasn't just owning a cup, it was owning a status symbol. And most importantly, the female group. So for you guys, step one is to analyze if your products are being sold to the proper crowd, and then make sure to create campaigns around social exclusivity of your products, leading to your product becoming a status symbol around the audience who specifically decided to target. Like, learn from Stanley to have such an absurd exponential curve of revenue increasing from 70 million to 750 million in just 4 years. So you can create a deep connection with your audience, build a relationship with your customers that goes beyond just selling products. Create a brand experience that resonates with their values and interests and emotions. Use all of these marketing tactics to create a cult-like following that can potentially make you bajillions of dollars. But here's the thing, how do you gather the attention to build your cult? Because if you think about it closely, all these tactics are basically useless if you don't get the attention from your market. Well, luckily for you, I break that down in this video where I explain Taylor Swift's genius marketing tactics that helped her to stay in the scene for more than 20 years. With that being said, I will see you in just a few seconds.